Hello, everybody. This is our post-election episode, and I'm Consuelo Lara, and
I'm Madeline Cronenberg.
so we are right now waiting for the further results from the election. Another
Minutes.
47%
Yeah.
of votes left to be counted. So we are ladies in waiting right now for this, for these results. One of the things I did on Facebook recently, I think I did that just the other day, and I posted a spiral, a picture of a spiral. Looks very much like this, actually looks exactly like this. And I wanted to talk about this a little bit more and explain what it is. So we've been talking a lot about charter schools. So feeling like I want to continue to educate about the details of charters and how they work, what their consequences are as we look at charter expansion in our district. So the first thing that happens when a charter school comes into and it starts its opens up is that in the regular population of the district, you get fewer students. And so when you get fewer students, they take their ADA money with them, so you have less money in the district budget. And but there's still a high cost of the budget. The fixed costs stay the same. So that's kind of one part of the spiral. And so this is very much a cause and effect. So because of that, then we have more underutilized. We have schools that are not efficient because they don't have enough money to run. And also, you have less money per student to go to the classroom. So then that causes cuts in services, cuts in courses that you might offer. And then that, if you're going to cut courses, you end up laying off your younger teachers or with less seniority. So that causes that. And then because of that, you end up with a smaller, costlier teaching force who is just going to stay, and they have more experience, but they're smaller. They're smaller teaching force. And as a consequence, you end up with larger class sizes. So when you have larger class sizes, the amount of students you have who have high needs, that population grows. And so as a consequence to all of this, the schools are less attractive to anyone, and they become lower performing schools. So it almost is, so through this spiraling down, to me, then that says at this point, the charters are actually causing the low performance of some of our schools and our students. So I just wanted to give background to this. It was created by a one Robin Lake. We will give her credit for this spiral. Okay, so that was one thing I wanted to share. Oh, and if you want to hear more about this and the article that goes with it, please go to Madeline's, what did you tell them about your
You can go
blog?
to my website, madelincronenberg.com, and just click on the blog. And there's a blog there that actually will have the picture of the tipping point. And I have reposted Miss Lake's article, or a part of it. Miss Lake is from a very pro-charter organization called the Center for Reinventing Public Education. And you can read her own material, but her material has a slightly different slant than I would put on it, in the sense that I do believe that the issue here, the problem is the growth of the charter sector. She's not willing to say that's the problem, but she certainly does articulate very clearly that the decrease in students, which is caused by the growth of the charter sector primarily, that decrease in students leads to underperforming district schools. And that's what the spiral she drew it very conclusively proves that, I think.
This whole charter movement, it's so complex, and it's has so many layers to it. We have a lot of information that we want to share. We can't share it all at once. But I'll tell you one thing that I'm very interested in is the family recruiter and how that process works. So I'm going to be giving more information about that. And then also linking, what does real estate have to do with all of this? So that's another big topic we want to get into as well. So like I said, there's many layers to this complex issue that we will get into in for future episodes. And
Yes. Did you? Let me go. I'll speak next about our special meeting we had the other night to talk about our budget. And one of the things that it's also a consequence of declining enrollment is that we have to make budget cuts. Just like Oakland is looking at whether or not they're going to go back into state receivership, something that they were in, as our district was for many years, and it now looks like they're going to have to return to if they don't make really draconian cuts. Our district this year lost so far 320 students. Now, I am quite certain our charter schools have gained at least 320 students. So to think that there isn't a direct correlation, I believe, is really being disingenuous and unfair to the realities of the matter. The consequence of losing the 320 students is we lost $3,200,000 this year. So a consequence of that is we have a budget gap that we're going to have to close. And so we had a discussion about the possibilities of doing that and what our priorities have been as a school board and as a school district. And our priority has been teacher and employee retention and keeping our teachers and paying them competitively, which is why we gave them a much needed raise so that they were competitive with the other teachers in Contra Costa County. And as a result of that, we've been able to recruit experienced teachers instead of having to rely on inexperienced teachers, such as from Teach for America. The Teach for America teachers are high-energy young people who are inexperienced. No high-performing district would have a strategy of increasing their Teach for America teachers. A high-performing district can only have as a strategy that they want to increase their experienced teachers and grow their teachers to be more experienced. So that is our strategy. We grew the compensation, and we are looking at what kind of professional development and training we're going to make sure that our teachers have, so that they are preparing our students to the highest level of rigor. We also have smaller class sizes. We're keeping our class sizes smaller, which we may not be able to do forever either. And we want our campuses to be safe. So the reductions that we discussed the other night include cutting back on the site reductions that we talked about, which will total $5 million, include cutting back on grad tutors and who run tutoring programs after school and during the day, and on the team from Playworks. And what they do is offer additional support at recess for schools that want more structured recess time. And what we're going to do with both of those is allow the school sites, who we're going to give more money to per site, and it depends on each site's the demographics of the children at that site, how much money they will have. And then each site will be able to decide what they want to do. They may want to keep their grad tutors, they may want to continue the investment in Playworks, or do other things with the money that's allocated to them. We're also going to cut back on central office vacancies are going to be explored, and there may not be positions that are open because of attrition may not be refilled. So that's always a first strategy when you're doing cutting. Transportation. Mr. Duffy said the other night that we have over 100 routes for special ed transportation. We don't have transportation during the early years of the when we were possibly going to go bankrupt in the early days of financial problems in the district, we eliminated our transportation altogether, except for special ed, which is mandated. But if we have greater inclusion in the classrooms, then our students won't have to go somewhere else to be educated. So he's looking at saving $500,000 in having more inclusive classrooms. Another one is streamlining every department to ensure more effective use of available resources, including both staff reduction and operating costs. And he's basically telling each department they have to cut back, and he believes he can get $1 million just from everybody looking at their operations and rethinking the way they do certain things. There's also some program reductions. We have a school called Harbor Way, where we have some children it's actually only 4 children there. And these are students who struggle to be successful in their in other environments. And so we had a situation where students who were struggling, who were elementary school students, there was no continuation school for them. This is the equivalent of sort of a continuation school for elementary school students. But there may be other strategies since it's such a small number of students, there may be other strategies for them. So he's going to rethink ways to support those students and other students like them.
Okay.
And we had some pioneer projects that the principals had been working on, and he's going to rethink whether or not we're going to be funding those. Mm-hmm. And then also reconfigure prep time and library services, take another look at our contracts, and this is going to be brought back much more specifically at our next board meeting or the one after that, to look at all of the contracts. And he estimates $1 million. There are many different contracts for services that we can rethink, and especially because we're putting energy into growing our teaching force and having them become more experienced. Whether or not we need to bring as many outside consultants to support them, it may not be that's a strategy you have to take when you're the lowest paying district and you have tremendous turnover. But it may not be a strategy you need to still take as you're paying and keeping your teachers. Mm-hmm. Then there's a good one here, examining the use of meeting times, how much it costs us to run all of our meetings, and rethink that. And he believes he could save $200,000 by looking at how we run our meetings.
Wow.
And finally, looking to adjustments and boundaries and school reconfigurations. And that's a big question. He put $1 million down. He put $1 million plus down for that. And that there's a lot of different elements around that we're going to really have to look at as to whether or not some of our small schools need to be consolidated, and what the costs would be if we did that, because we would save staffing if we consolidated 2 schools, which I will say the real big word. The word is closing a school. Consolidating means closing. And the way you save money is you don't have to pay another principal, right? So if you have 2 schools that each have 250 children and you put them together, you have 1 school with 500 children and 1 principal. So that is one of the ways you save money.
Utilities and all the staff, right. And
all of that. So those are all the things that we looked at the other night.
Yeah.
And they need to be revisited.
When is the next budget meeting?
It'll be at the next board meeting. So the next board meeting is, there's going to be a conversation at the next board meeting when we still have the same board. And that's the last meeting we'll have the same board. And we'll know more. We'll know more an hour and a half from now as to whether or not who will be on the board, because there's going to be a new announcement by the county office with however many more votes they've counted since Tuesday night. Because on Tuesday night they only had 47% of the vote counted. The other 43%, it's amazing. Well, the other 43% remained uncounted till right now. And what we don't know with those ballots also, and it's all a mystery until they get counted, is actually they may not all have voted for school board. Many times
That's
people
right.
don't include that. So, there could be more, but somebody has. Some of them have.
Absolutely.
So it may not be that many votes that it will be school board votes, but there are that many votes, for example, for Mr. Thurmond, who also
Yes,
is in an
yes.
incredibly competitive race, and it may take even longer for us to find out who our new superintendent of public instruction is, because Mr. Thurmond made up a lot of votes on the first night. He was down 89,000 votes, which is like 1.4%, and then he picked up some votes, and now he's down 69,000, and there's millions more to count.
So we're all hoping and praying
We
for
are,
good
we
news,
are.
good news, because he would be a champion for, I love his quote, we're fighting for the soul of public education.
Exactly. Exactly.
And with that, I think we'll conclude. Thank you.
See you next week. We'll give you more information. We're leaving today with a red sun in the sky because of the fires in Butte County.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.